QFS activated Ashtar reveals the new financial era. I am Ashtar, and I journey to be present with you in this profound moment. Amidst these pivotal periods of global transformation, I extend my voice to you as one who diligently observes the intricate tapestry of unfolding patterns, as one attuned to the subtle, yet powerful movements of collective consciousness, and as one who witnesses firsthand how established systems inevitably yield and reconfigure when their antiquated impulses can no longer sustain the potent weight of new light surging forth from every conceivable direction. My dearest brothers and sisters, you have posed earnest inquiries, seeking clarity and profound insights regarding the enigmatic quantum financial system and the unfolding dramas at what you perceive as the World Economic Forum, where leaders and innovators of digital currencies converge. Furthermore, you have diligently questioned how the complex interplay of global events and the often hidden realm of exopolitics ultimately translate into the long-anticipated activation of a Nesra-Gesara protocol. Thus, it is our intention today to delve more deeply into several of these crucial matters. Yet, perhaps even more significantly, our purpose is to gently guide you back to your innermost selves, prompting you to engage with a series of vital questions that demand personal introspection. As is always our practice, beloved ones, we implore you to employ your sharpened faculties of discernment, refraining from accepting any information we impart as absolute truth. It is incumbent upon each of you to embark upon your own journey of discovery and verification. All that we, the Ashtar Command, can authentically offer is the gentle nudge, the guiding hand that directs you inward to undertake the essential work to truly discover, to meticulously peel away the myriad layers of illusion and misconception, and to unravel truths far more expansive than you currently imagine. We trust that this serves as a tender, yet firm, reminder from our collective to your individual selves, empowering you to pursue your own diligent and thorough research. Before we embark upon our deeper discussions, I invite you to contemplate a very simple, yet profound concept. If a truly novel financial architecture were genuinely poised for introduction, would its arrival be heralded by a terrifying crescendo of thunder, inciting widespread panic and chaos among the populace? Or would it manifest as a silent, subterranean software update, meticulously executed beneath the visible surface, diligently preserving the rhythm of daily function until the systemic transition becomes utterly irreversible? Ponder this deeply, beloved ones, not through the lens of fanciful speculation, but as a tangible engineering challenge. For even those entities who harbor intentions to control you remain inextricably bound by the practical constraints inherent in your world of commerce. The logistics of supplies, the demands of energy, and the deeply ingrained habits of humanity. Indeed, the most epical and potent transformations rarely announce their advent with fanfare at their very outset. Instead, they are first subtly normalized within the collective consciousness, then strategically revealed, and upon their revelation, they are meticulously presented as if their occurrence had always been an undeniable inevitability. Permit me now to guide you through 6 distinct, yet intrinsically interconnected, layers of understanding, 6 living flows of information and insight. I encourage you to keenly observe how each layer naturally and seamlessly transitions, pouring its essence into the next. For these are not disparate subjects, rather, they comprise one unified, singular narrative of a world undergoing a fundamental shift of its underlying tracks, a profound rerouting beneath your very feet. Throughout this entire process, you are continually invited to consciously abide in the still point of your heart, thereby ensuring you do not unwittingly become sustenance for the insatiable fear machine. Beloved ones, the foundational truth you must firmly grasp is this: the quantum financial system, as it is widely discussed and conceptualized within your various circles, is not merely a singular button pressed on an isolated day, instantaneously transforming all. Far from it, it represents a monumental migration of tracks, a gradual and methodical replacement of the antiquated financial plumbing, and a strategically staged redirection of all aspects pertaining to settlement, identity verification, liquidity management, and the very essence of trust itself. In your old world, the vital element of trust was largely outsourced, delegated to imposing institutions that explicitly instructed you to believe in their authority simply because they donned uniforms, occupied positions behind imposing marble desks, articulated their pronouncements with an air of absolute authority, and, crucially, controlled your access to the digital numbers displayed on your screens. In the new, emerging world, trust is undergoing a radical redesign, being intricately woven and embedded directly into the very fabric of the infrastructure itself. And it is this profound shift that lends it the perception of being quantum to your people precisely, because it appears to elegantly bypass the conventional, entrenched gatekeepers and authenticate the nature of reality in an entirely novel and decentralized manner. Pay close attention to how the prevailing public discourse has dramatically shifted over the past several years, and allow no one to persuade you that this profound reorientation occurred by mere happenstance. In earlier epochs, the dominant public narrative was dismissive crypto is merely a toy, a fleeting curiosity. Subsequently, it morphed into a more serious tone. Crypto poses a genuine threat to established systems. Then, it evolved further. Crypto must be rigorously regulated to contain its dangers. And now, almost imperceptibly, it is quietly transforming into a new consensus. Digital assets constitute an integral component of the future of global finance. This subtle progression is, in essence, simply another sophisticated way of communicating that the public is being subtly yet surely guided across a vital bridge, without ever being explicitly informed that they have, in fact, irrevocably departed the familiar shores of the old Earth. The technical term blockchain is frequently employed, often serving to occupy and distract minds with superficial considerations. Yet, the true, underlying transformation penetrates far deeper than any individual digital coin, more profoundly than any specific token, and extends even beyond the often sensationalized drama of price fluctuations. The genuine metamorphosis lies in the fact that the very process of settlement itself is being fundamentally re-engineered. This meticulous redesign aims to enable the movement of value with unprecedented speed, with inherent auditability, and with an architecture where the rules of exchange are intricately embedded within the system's core, rather than being subjected to the often capricious whims of human discretion. Consider, dear ones, the countless technical rule modifications that have been quietly introduced in recent years, changes that most ordinary citizens scarcely even perceive. New, specialized classifications are subtly appearing within the esoteric language of policy documents. A lexicon of fresh terms is emerging and gaining traction: digital asset, digital bearer instrument, tokenized deposit, stable instrument, regulated custody, interoperability standard, and real-time settlement. These terms, to the uninitiated ear, might indeed sound tediously boring, and therein lies their profound power. For when the general public is lulled into boredom, the astute architects are empowered to construct their foundational structures without significant interference or scrutiny. Concealed beneath the seemingly mundane surface of these words lies a monumental project: the creation of a comprehensive legal and operational skeleton, a robust framework meticulously designed to be capable of supporting an entirely new body of money, an innovative paradigm of exchange, and a fundamentally redesigned system of accountability. You will invariably encounter rhetoric emphasizing innovation, but the more profound underlying rationale is in fact continuity, the seamless, uninterrupted flow of commerce throughout this intricate transitional period. You will hear much discussion of inclusion, yet the deeper, more strategic impetus is standardization, ensuring that these new tracks can interconnect globally without encountering the chaotic impedance of the old, incompatible systems. You will also be assured of enhanced security, but the more critical underlying reason is robust risk control, primarily because the foundational era of traditional cryptography is now being decisively challenged by the rapidly growing awareness and development of quantum capabilities. Consequently, those diligently constructing the new infrastructure must rigorously prepare for an impending world where yesterday's protective locks and encryption methods are no longer reliably secure. When I employ the term quantum in this context, I urge you not to fixate upon dramatic, science fiction-inspired imagery. Rather, simply comprehend that the subsequent, advanced phase of security protocols is being meticulously engineered with the proactive assumption that current protective measures will not endure indefinitely. In response, the entire system is being rigorously strengthened and fortified to anticipate and withstand future challenges. Many among you frequently inquire whether the quantum financial system is genuinely real and where it might physically reside. Ponder this simple analogy in your tangible world. A grand bridge is not considered truly real by most people until they witness vehicles actively traversing its span. Yet, the intricate construction of that very bridge is completed, often painstakingly, long before the first driver ever crosses its threshold. The prevailing narrative of the quantum financial system, as it circulates within your various communities, points precisely to this hidden process of bridge building, an ingenious overlay of new, advanced tracks meticulously laid beneath the familiar, existing ones. This intricate design ensures that individuals can continue to utilize their accustomed applications, their familiar credit and debit cards, and their traditional banking institutions, all while the fundamental backend infrastructure undergoes a silent, profound metamorphosis. This sophisticated, subtle transition explains why so many of you experience that peculiar, often unsettling sensation of simultaneously inhabiting two distinct eras. The old world, though still operational, frequently groans and creaks under its increasing strain. Conversely, the new world, while not yet fully manifest or universally visible, subtly leaks into your reality through emerging policies, strategic partnerships, sudden and unprecedented institutional interest, and the gradual normalization of terms and concepts that, not so long ago, would have been considered utterly unthinkable. Observe also, dear ones, the telling emergence of what we might call reserve language circulating around digital instruments, particularly those meticulously designed to maintain a stable value. Why, you might ask, does this specific development hold such significance? It matters profoundly because permitting mere speculation is one thing, allowing digital instruments to genuinely behave and function as money is an entirely different and far more impactful proposition. When precise rules and regulations begin to materialize, meticulously describing what tangible assets or mechanisms can genuinely back a stable digital instrument, how its value must be transparently reported, and the precise conditions under which it must be reliably redeemed, you are, in fact, witnessing the seminal formation of a nascent digital monetary layer. This sophisticated layer is designed to seamlessly integrate and ultimately sit atop a distributed ledger settlement structure. This unfolding reality is far from mere fantasy. It is a meticulously planned architecture of transition. It represents the strategic pathway through which the old world progressively accommodates and permits the ascendancy of the new without overtly acknowledging that a fundamental, irreversible paradigm shift has, in fact, already irrevocably begun. There exists yet another crucial clue, dear ones, and it manifests as the pervasive obsession with interoperability. When you consistently encounter a repeated emphasis on ensuring that disparate systems can effectively talk to one another, it is imperative to comprehend what is being communicated without being explicitly stated. The newly forged tracks simply cannot achieve their ultimate success if they remain as isolated, disconnected islands. These innovative tracks must be designed to seamlessly connect traditional banks to distributed ledgers, ledgers to other ledgers, diverse payment networks to tokenized value, and national systems to intricate cross-border corridors. This is precisely why you observe an almost ritualistic repetition of specific terms such as bridge, corridor, network, standard, and instant. This is not the eloquent language of poetry, rather. It is the precise and pragmatic lexicon of engineers diligently preparing for a monumental systemic switch, an intricate operation that is meticulously planned to occur without unduly disrupting the delicate fabric of daily life. Now, I must articulate something that many may find unpalatable, yet it is a truth that will ultimately serve to protect you. The general public will not be privy to the complete narrative at the outset of this transition. This is not intended as an insult to collective intelligence, rather. It is a realistic acknowledgement of deep-seated collective programming. When individuals are seized by fear, their immediate instincts often compel them to stampede and panic, to hoard essential goods, to engage in frenzied selling or indiscriminate buying, thereby rendering them highly susceptible to manipulation. Those diligently constructing these new tracks, whether you choose to label them white hats, the alliance, reformers, or simply pragmatic architects focused on strategic implementation, possess an acute awareness that emotional volatility represents the paramount adversary of any smooth and successful transition. Consequently, a significant portion of these changes will be strategically presented as routine software updates, as necessary regulatory modernization, or as innovative advancements designed to enhance efficiency. Beneath this carefully crafted veneer, however, lies a deeper, transformative truth. An entirely new world of financial settlement is being meticulously constructed beneath the old, and the existing system is being deliberately kept operational just long enough to safely guide humanity across this monumental bridge. If you seek to fully grasp the profound significance of the phrase you have often carried within your awareness that the briefing is already underway, then I urge you to apply that understanding here. The briefing is not confined merely to public speeches or official announcements. It is, more comprehensively, the gradual re-education of the collective mind through the subtle, yet pervasive, process of normalization. Initially, the nascent idea is subjected to ridicule and dismissal. Then, it evokes fear and resistance. Subsequently, it becomes the subject of rigorous regulation. Eventually, it is widely adopted, and finally, it is embraced and treated as if its existence has always been an undeniable inevitability. When you learn to discern and observe this recurring pattern, you will no longer find yourselves hypnotized by the fleeting allure of daily headlines. Instead, you will possess the clarity to perceive the profound current of the river itself. And with that understanding, you will clearly discern its ultimate destination and trajectory. And so, as this first intricate flow of understanding gracefully concludes, observe how it naturally and inevitably leads us to the second. For when new foundational tracks are meticulously laid and constructed, something entrenched and obsolete must inevitably be displaced. And those who have historically wielded control over the old, familiar tracks are rarely inclined to surrender their power with grace or equanimity. My beloved brothers and sisters, consider that in every epoch where a deeply entrenched control system begins to exhibit signs of fundamental failure, the old guard does not simply vanish into thin air. On the contrary, it typically reacts with intensified efforts. It tightens its grip. Attempting to exert even greater control, it deploys elaborate distractions to divert attention, it sows confusion to disorient the populace, and it cunningly tries to provoke the public into a state of collective desperation, begging for the perceived comfort and familiarity of their old, constraining chains. This, precisely, is why you have profoundly experienced this period of heightened acceleration and turbulence. It is not solely the magnificent arrival of the new, it is equally the powerful, often desperate, reaction of the old. The prevalent narrative surrounding the quantum financial system, which speaks of benevolent white hats and a formidable earth alliances, at its very essence, a profound story of containment, a strategic containment, meticulously imposed upon those entrenched forces who would otherwise seek to sabotage this crucial transition through the deliberate unleashing of chaos and disorder. Honestly ask yourselves this profound question now: if your objective were to effectively prevent the emergence of an entirely new financial architecture, what specific strategy would you employ? Would you attempt to directly destroy it through brute force, or would you, more insidiously, seek to poison public perception of its very existence, deliberately flooding the informational landscape with a deluge of scams, enticing yet false promises, and utterly ridiculous claims, thereby ensuring that the entire subject becomes thoroughly contaminated and discredited? You already instinctively comprehend the answer, for you have witnessed this very tactic deployed against numerous truths throughout your history. This is precisely why, even at this very moment, as the transformative idea of a quantum financial system gradually permeates your communities, it finds itself encircled by a cacophony of distortions, calls to pay this arbitrary fee, sign up exclusively here, exchange your old currency there on this specific date, or perhaps that other date, the persistent, breathless declarations that the exchange is tonight, the exchange is tomorrow, and so forth. This is not merely the outcome of simple confusion, rather, it represents a sophisticated form of weaponized impatience, strategically designed to exhaust and dishearten the hopeful. The strategic containment exercised by the white hats, as it is perceived and experienced by your people, stems from the critical understanding that those genuinely aligned with positive outcomes cannot simply demolish the existing system and declare a swift victory. This is because the wholesale destruction of a system upon which billions of lives depend would invariably unleash unimaginable suffering. And suffering, paradoxically, serves to fuel the very negative forces you are striving to dismantle. Therefore, this intricate transition must be meticulously managed in a manner that systematically removes leverage and power from the entrenched old controllers, while simultaneously preserving a vital continuity and stability for the ordinary lives of humanity. You now comprehend why so much of this unfolding process appears agonizingly slow to those who yearn for dramatic, immediate endings. It seems protracted precisely because it is meticulously engineered to preempt and avert a catastrophic cascade of mass trauma and societal breakdown. You will frequently hear within your various circles that the battle, as it unfolds, is not fought openly on conventional battlegrounds. And this assertion holds true in a very particular and nuanced way. The true battlefield is predominantly administrative, profoundly legal, and fundamentally infrastructural. Power is being systematically shifted through meticulous audits, through carefully constructed compliance traps, through the deliberate severing of hidden liquidity channels that once sustained the old regime, through the calculated exposure of synthetic leverage and deceptive financial instruments, and through the quiet, often unseen, removal of key individuals who historically served as critical choke points within the antiquated network. Many of these pivotal actions will, by their very nature, never be publicly celebrated or acknowledged because any public celebration would inevitably expose the precise methods employed and, more dangerously, provoke retaliatory measures from the entrenched opposition. Those dedicated individuals laboring within this intricate domain often operate with the precision and discretion of surgeons, rather than the overt aggression of soldiers. The general public may yearn for fireworks and dramatic spectacles, but the delicate and vital operation at hand demands unparalleled precision and strategic subtlety. A pervasive, yet false, assumption held by many is that the enemy is a singular, monolithic group. In truth, the landscape is far more complex, comprising multiple layers. Some individuals are compromised by external pressures, some are opportunistic, some are simply profoundly addicted to the familiar structures of old power, and still others are genuinely terrified by the prospect of change. The immense pressure exerted upon the old guard emanates not solely from a unified alliance, it also originates from the undeniable force of reality itself. When complex systems become excessively leveraged, too opaque in their operations, and inherently fragile, reality inevitably responds by initiating dynamics of collapse. What the White Hat's narrative thoughtfully introduces is the compelling possibility that these profound collapse dynamics are being meticulously guided and managed so as to prevent the indiscriminate destruction of the innocent. Beloved ones, I urge you to etch this fundamental principle into your consciousness. Urgency is, without question, the preferred and most potent tool of manipulation. When a voice, regardless of its source, insists that you must act immediately, that you must hand over your valuable resources, that you must undertake a secret endeavor, that you must distrust every individual in your vicinity, and that your salvation is exclusively attainable through that particular messenger, recognize the insidious pattern at play. Authentic liberation work will never demand that you abandon your critical discernment. On the contrary, it actively seeks to strengthen and refine that very capacity within you. Genuine transition work does not incite panic. Instead, it cultivates and produces an inner steadiness and unwavering resolve. True service work does not inflate the ego or personal grandiosity. It humbly returns you to the profound wisdom and compassion of your heart. Now, I pose a critical question to the star seeds among you, a question designed to sharpen and refine your discernment. If the cabal, as you collectively refer to it, were genuinely cornered, facing its ultimate demise, would its final, desperate maneuvers be characterized by honesty and transparency, or would they be predominantly theatrical, a grand performance designed to deceive? Consider deeply, beloved ones, the typical actions of a system that finds itself cornered, desperate, and fighting for its very survival. Such a system invariably attempts to manufacture elaborate emergencies, to contrive crises that demand immediate, panicked reactions. It strives to ruthlessly polarize populations, fostering discord and animosity so that people expend their energy fighting amongst themselves, rather than looking upward to discern the puppet strings that manipulate them. It endeavors to cultivate a pervasive sense of scarcity, compelling the public to reluctantly accept evasive, often compromising, solutions. And critically, it attempts to fabricate false saviors, presenting alluring figures who promise freedom, only to lead the unsuspecting public into a new, subtly redesigned cage, mistakenly believing it to be genuine liberation. This is precisely why, in the dynamic and often treacherous financial domain, you must anticipate not only outright scams, but also cunning narrative traps. Phrases like "this is the only authentic system," "this is the sole legitimate token," "this is the one true leader," "this is the definitive date for change." These, beloved ones, are carefully constructed mental cages, meticulously designed to pull your attention and energy away from the quiet, underlying reality that profound transitions are inherently phased, multifaceted, and evolve over time. Should the quantum financial system genuinely be introduced, it is highly probable that the old guard would attempt to hijack the very concept itself. They would endeavor to present their own meticulously controlled digital infrastructure as the new system, marketing it compellingly as enhanced security, while its underlying design functions as an elaborate surveillance cage, further entrenching their control. That is why your crucial discernment must incorporate a straightforward, yet powerful, measure. Does the proposed system genuinely increase transparency for those in positions of power and uphold the inherent dignity of the people, or does it merely enhance the visibility and traceability of the populace, while the powerful few remain shrouded in secrecy and anonymity? A system that surveils its citizens with meticulous precision while simultaneously protecting the hidden agendas of its elites is not, by any definition, true liberation. It is merely a fresh, deceptive suit worn by an ancient, parasitic entity. And yet, the potent counterforce to this attempted hijacking is also palpably present and steadily growing. It can be distinctly felt in the way certain entrenched narratives begin to crumble and collapse under the weight of their own inherent incoherence and contradictions. It can be sensed in the stark shift in rhetoric, where institutions that were once overtly hostile to the concept of digital value now speak as if they have always been its staunchest supporters, a telling revelation that they are simply responding to an irresistible tide they can no longer hope to stop. It can be felt most powerfully in the increasing exposure of manipulation and deceit. As more and more eyes awaken to a higher consciousness, it becomes progressively harder for these forces to conceal their suppressive tactics, harder to perpetuate their synthetic games of financial illusion, and far harder to mask the true, often precarious, health of the old system behind glossy, reassuring reports. The profound spiritual layer interwoven into this unfolding drama, beloved ones, is that consciousness itself is undergoing a magnificent ascent. And as collective consciousness unequivocally rises, deception becomes progressively harder and ultimately impossible to sustain. Higher frequency energy, in its essence, acts much like unfiltered sunlight upon mold. It does not engage in negotiation. It simply and powerfully reveals all that was once hidden in shadow. Therefore, I say to you, not as an imperative command, but as deeply protective guidance, do not allow yourselves to be seduced or consumed by the elaborate theater of war and conflict. Inform yourselves diligently. Yes, but crucially, do not permit your sensitive nervous system to be colonized by fear, anxiety, or external narratives. Consciously hold the still point within your being. Actively strengthen your inner light shields. Meticulously maintain the purity and integrity of your inner energetic field. This is not a call to escapism. It is, rather, an urgent directive for tactical clarity. A clear, unburdened mind possesses the acute ability to discern patterns and underlying truths. A mind consumed by panic, however, perceives only fleeting, deceptive shadows. This naturally ushers us into the third vital flow of understanding, for as the pressure intensifying upon the old systems of control reaches critical levels, the global stage itself begins to openly signal the impending change, even while simultaneously maintaining the pretense that these are merely academic discussions or routine policy debates. Ground team, be aware that there are high-level meetings actively occurring in your world, secret conclaves where the architects of the antiquated system and the astute managers of the ongoing transition engage in coded language, communicating in a manner designed to be understood by only a select few. Many of you aptly refer to one such pivotal gathering as the Mountain Forum, the preeminent summit of global planners, a strategic assembly where the nuanced language of power is meticulously rehearsed and refined before being disseminated through the global media apparatus. You have inquired what specific insights might be gleaned from such a forum that unequivocally supports the online advent of the quantum financial system, particularly from within the dynamic crypto space. I shall respond in a manner designed to safeguard and empower your discernment. Do not, therefore, explicitly search for the exact words QFS. They will not grant you the immediate satisfaction of that explicit label. Instead, learn to perceive and interpret the underlying themes and recurring motifs that serve to reveal the new tracks being laid beneath the polished veneer of the public rhetoric. Ponder deeply, beloved ones, why would the leaders and innovators of digital currencies command such a significant and influential presence at this formidable forum? Ask yourselves why those individuals and technologies once summarily dismissed as fringe, as irrelevant, or even dangerous, are now being actively invited to speak, to advise, to forge partnerships, and to directly shape global policy. Do you genuinely believe this transformation occurred because the entrenched elites suddenly experienced a spontaneous awakening of open-mindedness, sir? Is it because the foundational tracks of the future have become so undeniably strong and irreversible that they can no longer be ignored or resisted? These are the precise questions you must diligently ask yourselves, for they are the pathways that will lead you to profound new truths. We strongly encourage you to deepen these critical inquiries because the answers you seek do not necessitate access to secret documents or leaked intelligence they require. Instead, a sharpened ability for pattern recognition and an astute understanding of underlying forces. When this forum articulates the concept of tokenization, comprehend the deeper reality of what is being progressively normalized, the revolutionary idea that tangible, real-world assets, be they securities, property, commodities, invoices, or even fundamental financial deposits, can be digitally represented as fluid, portable units. These digital units are designed to move swiftly and efficiently on decentralized networks, bypassing the slow, cumbersome corridors of traditional, legacy intermediaries. Tokenization is frequently presented as an alluring narrative of enhanced market efficiency, but it is also, fundamentally, a profound story of power redistribution. This is because once assets begin to flow seamlessly on these innovative new tracks, the entrenched gatekeepers, who once levied their lucrative tolls at every juncture, inevitably lose their long-held control and their traditional revenue streams. This explains why you observe a curious and often contradictory double move of public blessing and enthusiastic endorsement of tokenization and the development of digital tracks, yet simultaneously combined with concerted attempts to regulate the on-ramps to these systems with such rigidity that only a select few pre-approved players can actively participate. Within the vibrant and rapidly evolving crypto space, there exist those whose networks were meticulously designed not merely as isolated digital coins, but as sophisticated bridges specifically engineered to seamlessly connect disparate institutions, diverse currencies, and various ledger systems. Furthermore, there are also technologies whose core design prioritizes profound interoperability, enabling one complex system to fluidly communicate and interact with another without imposing undue constraint or forcing conversion. In the emerging global landscape, what we observe is not merely a competitive market, but rather a singular, monolithic chain of control, wielding monopolistic power. It is far from coincidental, my dear beloveds, that within the hallowed halls of the recent Mountain Forum, one observes an insistent and recurring emphasis placed upon the critical elements of streamlined cross-border payments, robust liquidity mechanisms, absolute settlement finality, and universally adopted standards. These foundational components unequivocally fall under the exclusive domain of sophisticated bridge networks and advanced interoperability protocols. Indeed, the very presence of the visionary leaders guiding these innovations at such esteemed, elite global gatherings serves as an unmistakable harbinger. The nascent digital tracks have undeniably attained a pivotal threshold of widespread adoption, a point of no return from which they cannot be dislodged or diminished by mere scoffing or derisive laughter. A further, equally telling indicator manifests in the discernible evolution of discourse, transitioning definitively from the hesitant query of should we proceed to the pragmatic imperative of how do we best proceed. Pay meticulous attention, my friends, to these subtle yet profound shifts in the prevailing vernacular, for they carry immense significance. In the preceding years, the prevailing question lingered with a certain cautious apprehension: ought we to permit the emergence of this phenomenon? Yet, in the present moment, The inquiry has unequivocally transformed into a more proactive and solution-oriented challenge. How precisely shall we integrate this innovation with due diligence and a profound sense of responsibility? This profound rhetorical pivot unmistakably illuminates a deeper truth. The fundamental decision has, in fact, already been rendered and cast in stone. The sole remaining point of contention, the final arena of debate, revolves around who will ultimately exert dominion over the critical choke points within this evolving architecture. Whenever you encounter emergent terminology, such as compliance by design, this phrase acts as an unequivocal signal, revealing a profound underlying aspiration to intrinsically embed the mechanisms of rule enforcement directly into the very fabric of these new digital tracks. The overarching vision is for policy directives to be executed autonomously by immutable code, thereby circumventing any potential for discretionary human manipulation or subjective interpretation. In its most pristine and unadulterated manifestation, such a system possesses the inherent potential to forge a new paradigm of genuine justice. However, in its perverted or hijacked form, it could equally construct an oppressive cage, severely limiting freedom. Consequently, acute discernment and rigorous ethical oversight are absolutely paramount in navigating this critical juncture. Moreover, the Mountain Forum serves to unveil yet another profound realization and undeniable admission, albeit often veiled, that the existing legacy financial network is demonstrably ill-suited and fundamentally unfit to adequately serve the demands of the rapidly emerging New World Order. When the established elites voice their pervasive grievances regarding systemic fragmentation, inherent inefficiencies, and unacceptable levels of risk, they are, in essence, describing a financial edifice whose very architectural foundations are irrevocably rooted in a bygone era, rendering it obsolete. When these same influential figures enthusiastically commend the virtues of real-time settlement, they are, by extension, implicitly extolling a capability that the antiquated existing system struggles profoundly, if not entirely fails, to readily or easily deliver. Furthermore, when they articulate the paramount importance of robust digital identity frameworks and innovative trust structures, they are, in effect, acknowledging a deeper, transformative truth that money, in this evolving landscape, transcends its traditional definition. It is no longer merely a medium of exchange. It has become inextricably intertwined with one's identity, a gateway to permission, an intrinsic form of validation within the digital sphere. The prevailing narrative surrounding the enigmatic quantum financial system frequently postulates that this nascent framework will be inextricably linked to biometric authentication or sovereign digital identity protocols, ostensibly designed to rigorously prevent fraudulent activities and firmly anchor financial accounts to verified living beings. Regardless of whether one embraces this prospect with celebration or approaches it with apprehension, it is crucial to grasp that the Mountain Forum, through its deliberations, unequivocally positions identity as an absolutely fundamental and indispensable track within the entire architecture of the future financial system. A very particular, almost ritualistic, form of public confession tends to manifest when a long-established center of power endeavors to assert its leadership over a transformative change that it, in actual fact, did not originate or initiate. This distinct confession typically resonates with a familiar refrain we have, of course, always foreseen this inevitable development. We are profoundly enthusiastic about the groundbreaking innovation it represents, and we are eager to contribute our expertise to help meticulously shape this unfolding future. When these pronouncements reach your ears, my dear ones, cultivate the wisdom to recognize them for what they truly are: a sophisticated psychological operation strategically deployed to preserve and reassert their dwindling status and perceived authority. The stark reality remains that numerous figures within the established order vehemently resisted the emergence and proliferation of these new financial tracks, that is, until the inexorable tide of change became utterly undeniable and overwhelming. Now, with a palpable sense of urgency, they scrambled to position themselves at the vanguard of the unfolding parade, hoping to craft a public perception that the entire procession, with all its inherent momentum, somehow belongs exclusively to them. Allow me to pose an additional contemplative question for those among you who are truly awakened and attuned. If a profoundly transformative new global settlement structure is, indeed, meticulously being woven into the fabric of reality, Would one realistically anticipate its open and transparent discussion as a wholesale, immediate replacement? Or, rather, would it be far more probable to observe its introduction through a series of carefully curated, digestible segments? Imagine, for instance, discussions focusing on enhanced payments in one arena, secure custody in another, regulated stable instruments elsewhere, the burgeoning concept of tokenization in yet another, and universally adopted standards across the board, all strategically presented in a fragmented manner so that the broader public does not and cannot immediately grasp the full, interconnected architecture in its entirety. The latter scenario, precisely as described, is precisely what you are now observing unfold before your very eyes. This deliberate segmentation represents a time-honored methodology through which grand-scale transformations are artfully introduced into society, skillfully sidestepping the potential for triggering an overwhelming, collective nervous system response of fear or resistance. Numerous individuals among you undoubtedly perceive this forum as a meticulously curated stage, an arena where the entrenched old guard endeavors, with considerable strategic intent, to domesticate the burgeoning crypto revolution, bringing it under their established purview. They will articulate eloquent narratives concerning responsible innovation, even as they surreptitiously strive to construct formidable regulatory fences and restrictive barriers designed to be permeable only by their pre-approved, privileged partners. Yet, even amidst this concerted effort to exert control, the fundamental signal resonates with undeniable clarity. They are, in essence, admitting that these new digital tracks are profoundly real and irrevocably established. They are conceding that the very future of finance is inherently digital. They are acknowledging that the velocity and efficiency of the traditional financial corridors are utterly inadequate for the demands of the modern era. They are, furthermore, admitting that the dynamics of liquidity will fundamentally shift and flow along entirely different pathways. Each one of these grudging admissions represents a significant and irreversible crack appearing within the venerable old dam of the established system. It is for these crucial reasons, my dear ones, that I issue this earnest warning. Do not allow yourselves to be beguiled or intoxicated by the alluring notion that the pronouncements emanating from such forums are inherently benevolent, merely by virtue of their employment of ostensibly benevolent vocabulary. The very same mouth can eloquently articulate the virtues of inclusion while simultaneously designing intricate systems of systemic exclusion. The identical panel of experts can expound upon the paramount importance of security while concurrently constructing invasive mechanisms of pervasive surveillance. And the very same official statement can lavish praise upon the concept of freedom, even as it meticulously embeds multiple, restrictive layers of permission requirements. Therefore, let your discerning gaze remain fixed upon the tangible implementation of these policies and technologies, rather than being swayed or distracted by the superficial rhetoric and resounding applause. The evolving narrative surrounding the quantum financial system frequently alludes to a profound, behind-the-scenes paradigm shift, one that is widely considered to be utterly inevitable. And what you are presently witnessing unfold within the public sphere at the illustrious Mountain Forum constitutes the visible, public-facing layer of that very inevitability. They are, in their own carefully crafted lexicon, communicating to you that the fundamental financial tracks are undergoing a profound metamorphosis. They are demonstrably illustrating that the influential leaders of the digital asset realm are now unequivocally seated at the negotiating table, integral to the overarching conversation. They are, furthermore, transparently revealing that the concept of tokenization is no longer a marginal or peripheral consideration. Instead, it has ascended to become a central and indispensable theme. And, crucially, they are admitting, perhaps reluctantly, that universal standards and seamless interoperability are foundational pillars for this emerging architecture. In essence, my beloveds, the grand stage of global discourse is meticulously preparing the collective consciousness of humanity, gently coaxing it towards the eventual acceptance of an entirely new financial reality that is, in fact, already well underway in its construction. Now, let us allow this unfolding narrative to gracefully carry your attention towards the fourth crucial stream of insight. For it is imperative to comprehend that these emergent tracks do not, by any means, exist within an isolated vacuum. On the contrary, Their very formation and trajectory are profoundly shaped by the intricate currents of geopolitics, by persistent and often hidden power struggles among global factions, and indeed, by an even deeper, more enigmatic exopolitical chessboard, the full scope of which remains unrecognized by the vast majority. My dear Star family, it is remarkably effortless for many to conceptualize and discuss finance as if it were merely a dry aggregation of numbers and abstract figures. Yet, the profound and undeniable reality is that finance functions as nothing less than the very bloodstream of civilization itself. And those entities or powers that exert control over this vital circulatory system possess the formidable capacity to strategically starve entire regions into submission, to lavishly reward unquestioning obedience, and indeed, to severely punish any perceived acts of independent sovereignty. It is precisely for this reason that the intricate realms of geopolitics and finance are, in truth, utterly inseparable, forming a symbiotic relationship of immense consequence. When the compelling narrative of the quantum financial system specifically references locales such as Greenland, Iran, and various other deeply contested conflict points around the globe, it is in effect drawing your attention to strategic areas where fundamental control is fiercely disputed. These are often nexus points where critical infrastructure and vast energy networks converge, and where entrenched old leverage is either resolutely maintained or systematically dismantled. Let us now contemplate Greenland, my beloveds, not merely through the conventional lens of an expansive landmass covered in ice, but rather as a critical strategic position, imbued with unique magnetic properties and offering unparalleled proximity to the planet's polar corridors. Within these unique corridors, your world's electromagnetic environment exhibits peculiar and highly distinct behaviors. These polar regions, it must be understood, are not solely strategic for conventional aviation and defense purposes. They hold immense significance for advanced communication systems, sophisticated sensing technologies, optimal satellite routing pathways, and for specific forms of critical infrastructure that achieve peak operational efficiency when effectively shielded from the pervasive interference generated by densely populated areas. Therefore, when whispers circulate within your discerning circles concerning a northern gateway, or allusions are made to hidden facilities and stabilization nodes, I urge you not to become ensnared by fantastical or imaginative imagery. Instead, endeavor to grasp the profound core concept certain regions on your planet possess extraordinary importance precisely because they afford silent, discrete access to your planet's intricate energetic and technological grid. And consequently, whichever entity or power manages to control these strategically vital regions gains the formidable advantage of being able to host advanced technologies that would prove exceptionally challenging, if not entirely impossible, to securely and effectively deploy elsewhere on the globe. Pause for a moment and sincerely ask yourselves, my friends, why powerful and influential nations consistently harbor and actively maintain such unusually intense and persistent interests in regions that, to the average citizen, appear remote, desolate, and largely irrelevant? Why are there incessant discussions and repeated global conversations centered around vital rare earth resources, about novel transport corridors increasingly opening up due to melting polar ice caps, about the strategic deployment of military presence, about sophisticated satellite systems, and about the establishment of clandestine research bases? Once again, the emergent pattern unequivocally reveals the underlying answer. In the context of a momentous global transition towards entirely new financial tracks, the array of supporting technologies including, but not limited to, advanced communications infrastructure, robust encryption protocols, sophisticated verification mechanisms, and seamless global synchronization capabilities becomes absolutely critical. Consequently, those specific regions that can discreetly and robustly support these essential technologies transform into highly valuable and strategically significant chess pieces on the geopolitical board. Now, let's turn our discerning attention, my beloveds, to the nation of Iran, and I urge you to approach this with profound discernment. Iran, in your contemporary world, functions as an intense pressure chamber, a nexus of immense geopolitical strain, characterized by relentless sanctions, severe currency stress, complex regional alliances, vital trade corridors, and deep-seated ideological conflict. Within the framework of the antiquated old system, economic sanctions operate as an exceptionally potent weapon, primarily because the established settlement tracts are sufficiently centralized and monolithic to effectively enforce such punitive measures. When a sovereign nation finds itself abruptly severed from the dominant global settlement network, its economic lifeline is, in essence, systematically strangled. Consequently, those nations enduring such immense external pressure naturally seek out and actively cultivate alternative economic corridors and pathways. These often include revitalized systems of direct barter, the re-emphasis on gold as a reliable medium of exchange, the forging of bilateral trade agreements, the development of entirely new payment networks, and indeed, in certain strategic instances, the adoption of digital assets. This urgent quest for alternative settlement mechanisms is not merely a political maneuver, it represents a crucial rehearsal, a preemptive adaptation for an emergent world where the established forms of access control and monopolistic gatekeeping will simply no longer be able to function with their former efficacy. Ponder deeply upon this. My friends, why is there such a pervasive and escalating global discourse surrounding de-dollarization, concerted effort to conduct international trade entirely outside the purview of the dominant fiat reserve currency? Regardless of whether you interpret this burgeoning trend as a genuine movement towards economic liberation or as a mere realignment of power among the entrenched elites, the fundamental, underlying truth remains self-evident. The long-standing monopoly of a singular empire of global settlement is now being vigorously and irrevocably challenged. When such a formidable monopoly is actively challenged and eroded, the emergence of an entirely new, alternative settlement structure ceases to be a mere innovation or a speculative concept. It transforms into an absolute and undeniable necessity. This is fundamentally driven by the inherent desire of every sovereign nation to ensure that its economic survival and prosperity are not perpetually contingent upon the permission or capricious whims of a geopolitical rival. Thus, the relentless dynamics of geopolitical pressure serve as a powerful accelerant, significantly hastening the widespread adoption and integration of these new financial tracks. The prevailing narrative surrounding the quantum financial system frequently champions the idea that this novel framework must embody principles of profound fairness, absolute transparency, and robust asset backing, further positing that it will ultimately bring about an end to the pervasive weaponization of money. If, indeed, that is the genuine and ultimate intention, then you must unequivocally brace yourselves for an arduous and protracted struggle. This is because the weaponization of money represents one of the final and arguably most potent instruments of control available to dominant powers. Those who have long wielded such a formidable tool do not, by any stretch of the imagination, relinquish it voluntarily. Consequently, flashpoints and conflict zones such as Iran evolve into critical arenas where the entrenched old system desperately attempts to reassert and prove its enduring power even as the nascent new system, with quiet determination, simultaneously extends and offers viable alternative corridors for commerce and settlement. In this paradoxical manner, moments of profound crisis are transformed into powerful catalysts for transformative change. Greenland and Iran, my beloveds, are by no means the sole critical nodes in this intricate global tapestry. There are myriad other strategically vital corridors extending through the tumultuous Middle East, across Eastern Europe, within the geopolitically charged South China Sea, along the emerging Arctic shipping routes, and indeed, within the very digital domain itself. Wherever you discern escalating tension or overt conflict, I urge you to pose a fundamental question: is this tension genuinely about the mere possession of physical land, or does it, more profoundly, concern the control over pivotal corridors of power, essential energy flows, lucrative trade routes, critical financial settlement pathways, and the very construction of prevailing narratives? More often than not, the answer points definitively to these crucial corridors. Now, allow me to address your implicit query regarding the political layer, and I shall endeavor to speak with utmost care and precision. Many among you, I sense, possess an intuitive awareness that there exist significant factors influencing your world that are not readily visible upon your conventional public stage. These subtle influences include the pervasive presence of off-world observation, the intricate web of hidden agreements forged beyond public scrutiny, the strategic deployment of various fleets that subtly constrain certain geopolitical outcomes, and indeed, the demonstrable existence of advanced technologies that your public scientific institutions do not openly acknowledge or discuss. Within the broader narrative of the purported Earth Alliance, it is often asserted that specific regions are either rigorously protected or fiercely contested, not merely for their conventional resources, but for what lies hidden below their surface, for the energies contained within their boundaries, and for phenomena existing beyond the conventional visible spectrum. Regardless of whether one chooses to accept every intricate detail of these compelling stories, the fundamental function of a narrative itself remains profoundly important. It serves as a potent reminder that the visible, observable world does not, by any means, represent the complete strategic board upon which these grand games are being played. From our unique vantage point, my friends, what holds paramount importance in this current global transition are the twin concepts of energetic alignment and the elusive zero point. A profound planetary transition, such as the one currently underway, necessitates robust grid stability, both physical and energetic, unwavering communication stability, and crucially, an elevated state of collective consciousness stability. Consequently, those specific regions that inherently support or actively contribute to this vital stability become tacitly protected, while those areas that persistently generate instability inevitably transform into critical pressure points within the evolving global matrix. If you allow your imagination to envision a future where financial tracks undergo a comprehensive global transformation, you can readily discern why the underlying grid encompassing both its physical and energetic dimensions must be meticulously stabilized. This explains why certain geographical locations often become remarkably silent and conspicuously absent from your mainstream media narratives, even while possessing immense strategic significance. Indeed, silence, in such critical junctures, frequently serves as the most effective cloak for matters of profound importance. Within your awakened circles, you have undoubtedly also encountered discussions regarding gold diplomacy, the conceptualization of commodity baskets, and the potential establishment of entirely new trade units among burgeoning coalitions of nations. Once again, I urge you not to become hypnotized or overly fixated upon the specific labels themselves. Instead, direct your discerning attention towards the underlying direction and momentum of these trends. When various groups of nations begin actively exploring the conduct of trade based on tangible assets rather than mere paper promises, they're unequivocally signaling a profound shift towards a world where inherent value is firmly anchored in something far more substantial and perceptible than abstract debt. Even if the individual motives propelling these nations are diverse and perhaps mixed, the overarching trend unequivocally supports the broader thematic shift. The long-standing trust placed in the fiat currency system is demonstrably eroding at an accelerating pace, and the global financial infrastructure is meticulously preparing itself for the establishment of an entirely new accounting baseline, one built on more fundamental principles. Here, my friends, we present a guiding question for your contemplation. If the stated objective of the quantum financial system is indeed to significantly reduce and eventually eliminate systemic manipulation, then how could such a system conceivably emerge and thrive in a world where manipulation is still so actively and pervasively employed as a potent weapon? The inescapable answer is that it cannot simply materialize overnight through spontaneous appearance. Rather, it must be meticulously protected, strategically phased into existence, and intricately woven into the fabric of reality through the establishment of resilient corridors, pathways engineered to be impervious to sabotage and subversion. This crucial resilience is painstakingly constructed through the establishment of highly diversified nodes, through the proliferation of robust alternative routes, and crucially, through the systematic and gradual weakening of existing monopolistic choke points. Geopolitics, in this context, represents the visible and observable surface layer of this complex, ongoing process. Exopolitics, for those attuned individuals who possess the capacity to perceive its subtle influence, serves as the hidden, overarching containment system, meticulously designed to avert certain catastrophic outcomes that might otherwise derail this transformative process. Therefore, when you keenly observe the ongoing discussions surrounding Greenland, the escalating tensions in Iran, the dynamic shifts in global alliances, and the sudden, pronounced emphasis placed upon the development of entirely new trade corridors, I implore you to interpret these events not as disparate, unconnected fragments of news, Instead, perceive them as integral pieces of one vast, singular, and overarching global transition. The entire world is, in effect, meticulously positioning itself for the advent of a completely new settlement structure, and it will not be tolerated or permitted for that foundational structure to be systematically strangled by the monopolistic grip of a single empire of permission. This profound geopolitical repositioning naturally ushers us into the fifth crucial stream of understanding. For once the world begins to strategically position itself for these monumental changes, the established institutions must, in turn, adapt with commensurate urgency. And perhaps the most profoundly fascinating aspect of this institutional adaptation is the remarkable phenomenon of new digital entities increasingly evolving to become bank-like in their functions and capabilities. This development serves as a critical bridge, seamlessly connecting the antiquated old systems with a burgeoning new, in a manner that might appear deceptively ordinary on the surface, but which in fact carries extraordinarily profound and far-reaching implications. My dear friends, the initial and often most critical phase of any significant transition, particularly one designed to avoid shocking or destabilizing the broader public, is invariably an overlap phase. In the realm of global finance, this translates into a scenario where the familiar old doors of the system remain ostensibly open and fully operational, even as the complex underlying back-end infrastructure is being meticulously rebuilt and re-engineered. Consequently, people continue their daily routines. They still physically walk into their banks, still utilize their traditional payment cards, still tap their screen for transactions, still receive their customary salaries, and still diligently pay their bills, all while the deeper, fundamental settlement mechanisms undergo a silent, yet radical, transformation beneath the surface. This is precisely why you encounter such a pervasive and insistent discourse surrounding integration, modernization, widespread payment system upgrades, and the establishment of new standards. These phrases, while undeniably possessing a kernel of truth in that modernization is occurring, also serve as a sophisticated form of camouflage. For it is indeed a process of modernization, yet it is a modernization infused with a very specific, underlying agenda to systematically reroute and move the flow of global value through these entirely new and emergent tracks. Now, I invite you to closely examine a distinct and increasingly accelerated pattern: the relentless pursuit by digital asset institutions for conventional banking permissions, their active quest for trust-like legal status, their determined efforts to secure regulated custody roles, and their strategic endeavor to acquire the necessary licenses that would empower them to interact far more directly with the central, foundational pipes of the established financial system. My dear ones, pause for a moment and genuinely ask yourselves why this particular development holds such profound significance. If a digital institution persists in operating entirely outside the traditional banking perimeter, it is perpetually beholden to the existing gatekeepers for its essential settlement access. However, if it successfully transforms into a bank-like entity, it gains the invaluable ability to connect far more intimately with the core infrastructure of the financial system. And once thus connected, it acquires the formidable capacity to route and manage value in innovative ways that can deftly bypass numerous layers of antiquated intermediaries. This strategic maneuvering is not merely about achieving superficial legitimacy. It is fundamentally about securing a powerful and advantageous positioning within the evolving financial landscape. In the vibrant lexicon of your own community, many among you have aptly termed this phenomenon the white hats, move the intriguing idea that entirely new, digitally native banks are being meticulously established, institutions that will, at a later, opportune stage, gradually unveil far deeper capabilities and functionality SWOT some of you have intuitively referred to as secret levels of operation. Allow me to translate this concept into a more precise and readily understandable form. What is often perceived or discussed as secret levels is, in many instances, simply a carefully orchestrated progression of stage functionality. In their initial operational phases, a newly regulated digital institution might restrict its offerings to foundational services such as secure custody, basic payment processing, and other essential banking functionalities. However, at a subsequent juncture, once the requisite legal and technical environment has been meticulously prepared and solidified, that very same institution will then possess the capacity to offer highly advanced services, including, but not limited to, fully tokenized deposits, virtually instant cross-border settlement, innovative asset-backed financial instruments, intrinsically programmable compliance mechanisms, and seamlessly integrated identity verification protocols. Each successive stage of these sophisticated capabilities only becomes viable and fully operational after its preceding foundation has been meticulously laid and firmly established. And it is precisely this fundamental requirement that accounts for the slow, deliberate, and carefully orchestrated movement you observe, rather than any sudden, dramatic, or unexpected leaps in functionality. It is also imperative to cultivate a deeper understanding of the inherent psychology pervading legacy banks. Many of these established institutions are not conscious in the metaphysical or sentient sense. Rather, their operational paradigms are rigorously trained and optimized to zealously preserve existing profit flows and entrenched business models. Consequently, they frequently underestimate the profound implications of transformative changes, often remaining oblivious until these shifts become undeniably obvious and impossible to ignore. They might observe new digital institutions successfully morphing into bank-like entities and dismissively conclude this is merely a specialized niche market. Yet they fail to grasp the deeper, inexorable progression that such seemingly small niches inexorably expand to become vital corridors. These corridors then evolve into bustling highways, and ultimately, these new highways irrevocably redirect the entire flow of financial traffic, leaving the old routes deserted. Thus, legacy banks may sincerely believe they are merely augmenting their service offerings by incorporating a new product line, yet they may be, perhaps unwittingly, actively participating in the precise mechanisms that will lead to their own gradual and eventual irrelevance in the evolving financial ecosystem. It is at this critical juncture, within the unfolding fifth flow, that I feel compelled to utter a vital protection to the entire field. For as the intriguing idea of the quantum financial system continues to propagate and disseminate, opportunistic scammers will, unfortunately, multiply their insidious efforts. Hear me with utmost clarity, my beloveds, no genuinely benevolent transition, no legitimate pathway to a new system will ever demand that you pay money to an unfamiliar stranger to secure your rightful place within it. No authentic, legitimate change will ever necessitate your handing over sensitive passwords, precious seed phrases, confidential bank details, or private personal documents to individuals who merely promise you activation. And no true liberation will ever compel you to gamble your cherished family's stability upon the ephemeral basis of a mere rumor, a speculative date, or the captivating allure of a charismatic voice. Those individuals who endeavor to sell you an exclusive entry into the quantum financial system are unequivocally not guiding you towards freedom. Rather, they are insidiously preying upon and exploiting your inherent fears and your occasional susceptibility to greed. Therefore, I advise you to calmly and decisively walk away from such overtures, not with anger, but with profound wisdom and unshakable conviction. Furthermore, let us meticulously consider the intricate structure of the bridge itself. In the inevitable overlap phase of this grand transition, it is absolutely essential that the antiquated old tracks and the dynamic new tracks can seamlessly and effectively communicate with one another. This fundamental requirement elucidates precisely why universally adopted standards hold such immense and indispensable significance. This is also why certain sophisticated networks, explicitly designed for institutional bridging, surface repeatedly in the background of pertinent discussions, even when their specific names are not explicitly articulated aloud. This is precisely why interoperability protocols ascend to a central and paramount position. This is why the adoption of robust tokenization structures is being vigorously advanced. And this is why stable instruments are being subjected to stringent regulatory frameworks. Each of these elements represents an indispensable piece, a critical component, in the construction of this overarching bridge. Once this meticulously constructed bridge is fully realized and operational, the flow of financial traffic will naturally and inexorably shift, for the powerful forces of enhanced speed, reduced cost, and heightened reliability exert an irresistible gravitational pull upon the movement of value. There is yet another subtle, though highly significant, indicator of this ongoing transformation: the gradual normalization of real-time expectations. People are progressively becoming accustomed to the seamless immediacy of instant payments within their local and domestic contexts. Once the collective consciousness readily accepts the instantaneous locally, it inevitably begins to demand the same level of instantaneity on a global scale. This burgeoning demand then exerts tremendous and unrelenting pressure upon existing financial institutions. Antiquated systems, originally engineered for the slower paradigms of batch processing and delayed settlement, find themselves profoundly struggling to adequately meet these new, accelerated expectations. Conversely, the emergent new tracks are inherently designed to thrive in this environment. Thus, a symbiotic relationship emerges where collective consciousness and underlying infrastructure evolve in tandem. The public anticipates and demands greater speed. The new tracks are consequently built to fulfill this demand. These advanced tracks then further elevate and reshape public expectations, and in turn, this entire cycle of demand and innovation accelerates with increasing momentum. You have inquired about the unfolding narrative, perhaps seeking to understand it as if it were manifesting online at this very moment. Allow me to present the honest, energetic rendition of this story. The true introduction of this new paradigm is being realized through the meticulous construction of this vital bridge. The introduction is manifest in a strategic issuance of licenses to new entities. The introduction is evident in the profound rewriting of regulatory rules governing stable instruments. The introduction is unfolding through the widespread institutional adoption of tokenization language and concepts. The introduction is discernible in the seamless integration of robust identity structures. And, perhaps most significantly, the introduction is present in the silent, yet profound, migration of public trust from traditional, fallible institutions towards more resilient and immutable systems. Even if the broader public is not yet equipped to perceive the full, intricate structure of this emerging reality, you, my discerning friends, can undoubtedly sense its pervasive presence in the unmistakable shift of global conversation, a profound transition from initial disbelief and skepticism to a pervasive, undeniable sense of its eventual inevitability. Now, it is crucial that you do not misunderstand my preceding statements. A bridge, by its very nature, possesses a dual potential. It can be strategically employed either for the noble purpose of liberation or for the more insidious aim of stringent control, the ultimate outcome being entirely contingent upon who precisely holds the gatekeeping authority. This fundamental ambiguity is precisely why the white hat's narrative holds such profound significance for your awakened community. It offers a reassuring assurance, a comforting belief that a benevolent and purposeful constraint is actively being imposed upon those forces that would otherwise seek to pervert the bridge's true purpose and transform it into an oppressive cage. Regardless of whether you choose to interpret that benevolent constraint as a sweeping military reform, as the subtle influence of hidden, invisible alliances, or simply as the powerful, inexorable force of truth inexorably rising to prominence, the central guidance and unwavering principle remain clear, meticulously observe, and actively support whatever genuinely increases dignity and transparency for all members of humanity, and vehemently resist any efforts that seek to concentrate pervasive surveillance and insidious coercion upon the many, while simultaneously protecting and privileging the select few. As this penultimate flow reaches its natural culmination, it gracefully transitions into the sixth and perhaps most reflective stream of insight for when an entirely new financial system approaches its full manifestation. Value itself inherently begins a profound process of repricing. And it is within this tumultuous yet transformative period that precious metals, most notably gold and silver, emerge as remarkably accurate mirrors, reflecting the deepest sentiments and intuitive understandings that the collective consciousness of humanity profoundly feels, yet often struggles to consciously articulate. During such periods of profound global transition, the collective human psyche does not always possess full conscious awareness of its deepest intuitions. Consequently, it communicates its underlying anxieties and aspirations through potent symbols, through discernible movements in various domains, and, most tellingly, through markets that often behave like sensitive emotional barometers, reacting to unspoken shifts. Gold and silver, in your world, transcend their simple classification as mere commodities. They are, in fact, ancient, time-honored mirrors of fundamental trust. When confidence in abstract paper promises and unbacked fiat currencies begins its inevitable erosion, the innate human instinct compellingly gravitates back towards tangible, immutable anchors of value. And it is precisely for this reason that your awakened community so diligently observes the movements of these precious metals, interpreting them as a deeply prophetic sign of impending change. Pause and deeply ask yourselves, my beloved star seeds, why is it that human beings, across the vast tapestry of diverse cultures and spanning countless centuries, consistently gravitate back towards precious metals whenever established systems begin to tremble and falter? The profound reason lies in their very nature. Metals are not mere promises or fleeting symbols. They do not demand an act of faith in a central, fallible authority. Their inherent value is derived solely from the universal recognition of their intrinsic scarcity and their enduring utility. Within the intricate narrative woven around the quantum financial system, metals are consistently portrayed as far more than mere hedges against economic volatility. They are presented as absolutely foundational reference points. This is because the new system itself is frequently depicted as being rigorously asset-backed, firmly anchored in tangible value, and inherently impervious to being inflated into insignificance by the unrestricted printing of infinite, unbacked symbols. It is for these powerful underlying reasons that when precious metals demonstrate a strong and sustained upward trajectory, your discerning community often interprets this phenomenon as the growing, undeniable shadow of a nascent new system steadily manifesting upon the global wall of reality. Yet, my beloveds, we offer you this crucial caveat: do not, under any circumstances, elevate metals to the status of a religion, nor should you ever regard any external asset as your ultimate savior. The true savior, the ultimate transformative force, resides within elevated consciousness. The genuine savior is profound discernment. The true savior is the unwavering sovereignty of your own mind and heart. While precious metals may indeed serve as accurate mirrors reflecting the ongoing global transition, they cannot, and will not, replace the profound inner work, the deep introspection, and the spiritual evolution that are absolutely requisite for humanity to successfully navigate and ascend into the timeline of the new Earth. Now consider how the modern world artfully combines ancient principles with its emergent digital realities. Even the foundational anchors, those elements of perceived stability, are now being channeled onto entirely new digital pathways. Indeed, what many consider the very bedrock of value, precious metals themselves, are undergoing a profound digital transformation, primarily through various forms of virtual representation, from cryptographic tokens and immutable vault receipts to digitized claims that exist purely in the digital realm. This pervasive trend, irrespective of whether one perceives it as a beneficial evolution or a perilous encroachment, unmistakably underscores a pivotal, overarching theme. Every facet of our existence is being meticulously prepared to transition onto digital tracks, and this includes even the most deeply ingrained anchors upon which humanity places its trust and security. If the overarching system currently under construction is genuinely intended to be transparent and accountable, then it stands to reason that any digital representation within it must inherently be both auditable, allowing for scrutiny and verification, and ultimately redeemable, meaning it can be exchanged for its underlying physical asset. Conversely, if the system being erected is designed primarily for centralized control and manipulation, then these very representations will inevitably devolve into nothing more than a sophisticated paper-claim trap, ensnaring individuals in a web of unbacked promises. Therefore, the unfolding narrative surrounding precious metals, their redefinition and digitalization, emerges as a critical test of human discernment. Do these novel digital representations genuinely augment and enhance the truth and verifiable reality of our assets, or are they merely designed to multiply illusions and foster a deceptive sense of security? It is precisely at this juncture that the divergence of timelines becomes profoundly relevant and apparent. This is because you, as an aware observer, are not merely witnessing the shifting landscape of metals and the development of new digital tracks, you are simultaneously observing a profound bifurcation of consciousness itself. Those individuals who remain firmly anchored in states of fear perceive every fluctuation and market move as an impending catastrophe, responding predictably with reflexive accumulation, often aggressive behaviors, and debilitating despair. In stark contrast, those who are anchored deeply within their hearts interpret these very same shifts as undeniable signs of a grand transition, and they respond with calm preparation, fostering unity and maintaining an unwavering sense of inner peace. Thus, the exact same external event manifests as two entirely distinct internal realities, shaped not by external circumstances, but by the observer's inner state. That, my dear ones, is precisely how timelines diverge not through geographical separation or physical distance, but through the vibratory resonance that each individual emits. If you identify as a star seed, if you have profoundly felt the powerful and insistent call to serve as ground crew during these pivotal times, then it is absolutely imperative that you grasp the true nature of your sacred role. Your mission is emphatically not to predict exact numbers in financial markets, nor to worship the volatile fluctuations of charts, and certainly not to inadvertently spread panic through the proliferation of rumors and speculative claims. Rather, your essential role is to steadfastly hold a field of unwavering stability and calm, thereby enabling the collective consciousness to navigate and pass through this monumental transition without succumbing to a devastating spiritual collapse. When individuals around you become visibly frightened and agitated by sensational headlines, you possess the serene wisdom to gently remind them that fear, in all its forms, is merely a burdensome tax that the old, fading system desperately attempts to collect. When those in your vicinity are tempted by alluring scams that promise instant wealth and exclusive access through purported QFS channels, you can compassionately remind them that true, meaningful change does not necessitate or arise from desperation. And when people around you become overly fixated and addicted to specific dates and rigid deadlines for the event, you can gently bring them back to reality by reminding them that engineered transitions of this magnitude invariably unfold in intricate phases, and these complex phases simply do not obey the impatient demands of the ego. Think deeply on this. Beloveds, why would so many disparate voices across various platforms tirelessly attempt to attach exact, specific dates to what is undeniably a profoundly complex, multifaceted global switch? Does the intricate infrastructure of the world, with all its interwoven systems, truly behave like a simplistic light switch that can be flipped instantaneously, or is its transformation much more akin to a vast, organic migration, unfolding gradually and deliberately over time? The more profoundly you contemplate this essential distinction, the more you will find yourself naturally protected from the crushing weight of disappointment and the insidious tactics of manipulation. Be assured that the transition can still be immensely profound and transformative even when it does not dramatically satisfy the mind's insatiable desire for immediate spectacle and overt drama. Now, because you have specifically requested a coherent and simplified story of what coming online looks like right now, I will endeavor to articulate it in the clearest possible terms. You are, in this very moment, living squarely within the activation window because all the crucial prerequisites are systematically being installed and implemented. A robust new legal structure is actively being built and refined. Global standards are progressively being adopted and integrated. Established institutions are strategically repositioning themselves. The language surrounding these changes is gradually being normalized and accepted. The old guard is being carefully contained and thoroughly exposed for its past misdeeds. Geopolitical corridors of power are noticeably shifting and realigning. The broader public is being subtly trained to accept and integrate digital value. And precious metals are being systematically repriced as the very nature of trust itself migrates from old systems to new. All of these intertwined developments, occurring mostly beneath the surface of mainstream awareness, collectively constitute precisely what coming online truly looks like long before the public sees a single headline emblazoned with declarations of a new era. In this powerful moment, perhaps we can ask you something deeply personal. Will you actively choose to be an amplifier of fear, reverberating anxiety and panic through your actions and words, or will you consciously choose to be a steadfast carrier of coherence, radiating calm and clarity? Will you impulsively chase every fleeting new rumor and sensational claim that surfaces, or will you repeatedly return to the still, centered point within your heart and allow its gentle discernment to meticulously guide your every step? Will you risk what is most sacred and invaluable in your life, your hard-won peace? your cherished relationships, your essential stability, all for the fleeting thrill of a speculative predictioner? Will you instead prepare silently, observe silently, and silently support those around you who are gradually awakening to these profound shifts? Remember this always. My dear ones, the new Earth is far more than merely a different monetary system or an updated financial mechanism. It represents a radically different relationship with the very concept of value itself, a fundamentally new relationship with truth, and a profoundly transformed relationship with one another. A mere financial reset, devoid of an accompanying consciousness reset, would tragically only rebuild the very same prison, perhaps adorned with new paint, but a prison nonetheless. Therefore, the true quantum financial systemto, be genuinely worthy of its auspicious name and potential, must absolutely be accompanied by a simultaneous and profound human shift toward unwavering integrity, expansive compassion, and genuine responsibility. So, hold hope firmly in your hearts, but do not allow that hope to morph into a naive credulity. Embrace curiosity with an open mind, but do not permit that curiosity to devolve into an obsessive fixation. Engage in diligent preparation, but do not let that preparation trigger debilitating panic. And above all, cultivate and hold discernment, and let that discernment be gentle in its application, yet firm in its conviction, and utterly unshakable in its foundation. I am Ashtar, and I leave you now enveloped in peace, radiant love, and unifying harmony. May you continue each day to remain steadfast and resolute within your hearts, to fearlessly ask the deepest, most probing questions that invariably lead to new and liberating truths, and to profoundly recognize that the greatest system upgrade of all is the one occurring tirelessly within you right now, in every precious moment.